Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday special lecture from Progress and Prospects of Biology today. Today we have Dr. Sanjukta Bhattacharyya with us. We'll be talking about Animal Kingdom to Pharma Kingdom and beyond. Um, so, a very warm welcome to all of you. And before we proceed, I would like to invite the convener of this seminar webinar series and our mentor, Dr. Enoray Banerjee, to say a few words to welcome Dr. Bhattacharya.
Thank you, Shoradeep. And thank you, Shinjini, who is at the background. And thank you to, I don't know, who is helping with the simulcast on YouTube?
It's just us, ma'am. It's fine.
It's just you. So Shinjini and Shoradeep are running the show. Shoradeep is visible, but Shinjini is not. And our speaker, Dr. Sanjukta Bhattacharya, a very dear friend. And today she is tonight, day in some parts of the world and night in some parts. Today she is going to share her incredible journey with us. For the information of the speakers, Progress and Prospects in Biology is a virtual platform for discussing science and non-science in a seamless manner to facilitate real life problem solving. So we are happy to bring to you scientists from the realm of biological sciences and allied sciences and professionals who may have been trained in biology and in other subjects, but have later converged into solving problems akin to each other. So this is a very dynamic field, and today we have people tuning in from across the world, undergraduate and postgraduate students, young and middle professionals, and very senior academics. And together we are happy that we will discuss about a lot of things, in the sense that there is a huge spectrum of disciplines to study from, and especially now when the admission processes of colleges and universities are beginning. One of the main questions that the guardians of the students and the students themselves ask is, what does the subject offer to me? And this is where not only the series of talks where we sensitize the interested audiences to the developments in the world of biological sciences, but also discuss what you do with it. So progress and prospects together in biology and beyond aims to bring to you thoughts, experiences, and today we have one such professional who began her career, and when she will be introduced by Shoradeep in a bit, we will know that when she began her career, I'm sure she had no idea where she will end up. And her incredible journey will be a sort of an eye-opener for a lot of us who perhaps aren't even able to imagine the enormous potential of the subject that you study, and how you can add value to yourself and go beyond the subject, just the subject that you have studied, and blossom as an individual, contributing to the developments around us. So a very warm welcome to our audience on YouTube and on StreamYard, and a special thanks and welcome to our speaker, Dr. Sanjukta Bhattacharya. So while we wait for Dr. Bhattacharya to begin her speech, I will request Shoradeep to please introduce her.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for such a lovely introduction to our platform. So today we have Dr. Sanjukta Bhattacharya with us for our special seminar. Dr. Sanjukta Bhattacharya completed her post-graduation from the Department of Zoology, University of Calcutta, and was awarded her PhD degree from the same department under the guidance of Professor Ashok Ghosh in the year 2000. She has more than 20 years of experience in reputed pharmaceutical companies, namely Pharmacia, acquired by Pfizer, LG Life Sciences, and Ranbaxy, with a wide range of experiences that includes medical writing, clinical operations, clinical development, and project management of NCE development. At Ranbaxy, she managed the clinical development of Cinerium, an anti-malarial drug, the first new drug to be developed in India. She was felicitated by former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, for exceptional contribution in the development of this life-saving drug. For the last 7 years, Dr. Bhattacharya has been with APCER Life Sciences, a service provider to big and medium pharma companies with a mission of Together for Better Health. She is heading a team of more than 40 medical writers with expertise in crafting high quality regulatory and scientific documents across several therapeutic areas. So, as you can realize yourself, she has had a very illustrated career, and we would be more than happy to learn more about it from directly from herself. Dr. Bhattacharya, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening and good morning, friends. Today, I'm extremely excited to go back in touch with folks at my alma mater and talking to them. I thank my friend Anna for having given me this wonderful opportunity and for me to sort of, go back in time. I'm happy that I'm able to also share my views with all of you. I passed out from the from University of Calcutta in 1999 and was awarded a PhD in 2000. My topic, which Dr. Ena Ray Banerjee wants me to speak on, is my journey from the animal kingdom to the pharmaceutical kingdom. While I will certainly speak about what I have done in the pharma industry, I will also attempt to draw your attention to what are those specific areas in the pharma industry where zoologists can and have played a role. So, to begin my presentation, uh, I'll just put this on share screen mode. So, what I'm going to discuss today is the transition from the zoological to the pharmaceutical world, the roles of a zoologist in the pharmaceutical industry, pharma drug development and value chain, drug discovery and the development process in a nutshell, and the confluence of zoology and pharma towards understanding the diseases and developing therapeutics. So, this first slide talks about my journey, and I'm going to dwell on this for some time and let you know how I have transitioned to the pharmaceutical world with a background in zoology. So, as I said, I was a part of the August Institute, University of Calcutta, what I will always cherish. And in the year 1999, soon after submitting my PhD thesis, I joined a company called Pharmacy and Upjohn. It doesn't exist by this name any longer, as Pfizer had acquired this company in 2002, which was the most expensive, I would say, pharma acquisition then. So it is an interesting story, actually, how I ended up in this company. And I'll just briefly tell you that a dear friend of mine living in Gurgaon and working in the same company called me up one fine morning to say that there is a vacancy in the clinical research department of the company, and I should quickly travel to Gurgaon and appear for an interview. No, way back in 1999, I had no clue what clinical research is. But there I was sitting at the interview with a head of medical and regulatory affairs of pharmacy and Upjohn, who was so impressed with the photos of cytology of the adrenal gland in my PhD thesis that lo and behold, within a day, I had the offer letter of a clinical research associate in my hand. So, as I started my career in clinical research function, uh, enthusiasm to do something new, flexibility, quick learning ability, all these enabled me to keep soaring. And I managed, quite a few clinical trial programs that were critical for the company's product launch and success in India. Some of the target disease for which the drugs were being tested included certain cancer types, cardiovascular diseases, inflammatory diseases, erectile dysfunction. Now, let me tell you briefly about this particular function in a pharma company, before I move on to my next career move. So, as I said, I started my career in clinical research. And what is clinical research? See, in way back in 1999, I was absolutely oblivious of what clinical research is, but it may not be so for most of you, today. But still, I would like to just briefly let you know what it is, uh, how I fitted into this role, and what I used to do, and what you can do also in future. So, clinical research is a branch of healthcare science that determines the safety and effectiveness of drugs, devices, diagnostic products, and treatment regimens intended for human use. And clinical research is to do with clinical trials, conducting clinical trials, which are research studies on human participants with new drugs, treatments, devices, to evaluate its effect, both the safety as well as the efficacy on human health outcomes, they are designed to answer specific questions. So clinical trials, as I said, are conducted in humans. And once the preclinical studies with the drug are completed, we embark upon the clinical trials. So this slide talks about the different phases of a clinical trial. The phase 1 studies are those where the drug is tested for safety and the maximum tolerated dose. Usually it is conducted in healthy volunteers, and the number of participants is very small, ranging from 20 to maximum to 80. And these are again can be phase 1A, that is single rising dose studies, or after which the phase 1B is conducted, which is repeat dose studies. Approximately 63% of the phase 1 studies are give fruitful results, and we can move on to the phase 2 studies, which are studies where trials where the drug is tested in patients. And this drug is intended is tested in about a little bigger group of patients, ranging from 100 to 300. And approximately only 31% of drugs which complete phase 2 can are ready to move to phase 3. So again, phase 2 can be of different of two different phase 2 studies are conducted in two different steps. The first is the proof of concept, where you are testing the drug for the first time in patients and seeing whether it gives efficacy, shows efficacy or not. However, safety is the primary concern throughout the development process of the drug. And phase 2 is where you are testing the drug at different dose levels in patients, and you are picking up the right, the most effective and the safe dose to be taken to a bigger phase 3 trial. In a phase 3 trial, the drug is tested in a bigger number of patients, which ranges from 300 to 3,000, and uh, the drug is here tested against the gold standard, which is already available in the market. And either you prove a superiority of the drug against the gold standard, or you prove that it is as effective or as safe as the current gold standard. Approximately 58% of phase 3 trials move to new drug application process, where all this data is submitted to the regulatory agencies, and it is approved by the regulators to come into the market. After getting an approval, which is about 85% of the drugs get an approval to go into phase 4, or gets a marketing authorization, post-marketing surveillance studies are conducted, which gives a real-life experience of the drugs, and the effectiveness as well as the safety is continuously monitored even after the drug is in the market for at least 7 to 10 years. And if the drug is found to have any um, uh, adverse effects which are of grave importance, then they can even be withdrawn from the market. Now, these clinical trials have to be monitored very closely, and to ensure it is a continuous process conducted during and after the trial, and uh, and these are the activities that are conducted for monitoring clinical trials. You have to visit the clinical trial sites to review and discuss how the study is being conducted, to ensure that the subject's safety and the well-being is being protected. The study is being conducted as per the good clinical practices. These are the standards that have to be followed while conducting the clinical trials. Allocation, accountability, and storage condition of the study drugs are to be maintained, and source data has to be verified. That is, all the data that is being captured at the hospital for the patient are being transcribed properly into the reports that go to the sponsor, that is the pharma companies. Now, when I started my career in pharmacia, uh, as a clinical research associate, I would be monitoring clinical trials. So, what is required in my opinion and from my experience, these are the things that you require to be a clinical trial monitor. This is a very, very interesting area, and what is required by a pharma companies are usually um, postgraduates in life sciences. A PhD is always always has an upper hand here, because comprehending medical data is something which is very important here. Understanding the clinical study related documents like the protocols, the informed consent forms, all the medical records of the hospital, and the regulatory documents is extremely important. Attention to details is again as important uh, as comprehending the medical data, as you have to ensure that all the data that is being generated at the hospital is properly transcribed into the records that goes to the sponsor company. Familiarity with the applicable regulations and the guidelines. GCP, the one that has to be followed is GCP, the good clinical practice. As I told you, these are the standards for conducting clinical trials. A good understanding is very important. Good interpersonal skills and communication skills is also very important, as you have to deal with physicians, the study team members, and train the physicians the study coordinators, and the junior monitors. Also, you have to be ready to travel. Just pick up your suitcase and travel to the sites as and when required. Now, I will again come back to this slide uh, where I will move, to my next, career move. After a short stint in LG Life Sciences, which was a similar kind of a profile of managing clinical trials, I joined Ranbaxy Laboratories, which is now Sun Pharma, and spent good 10 years there. So, my tenure in Ranbaxy has been extremely enriching. I joined there as a project manager for all their new drugs, which were in different stages of development. I, managed the first new chemical entity that was being churned out from an Indian pharmaceutical company, and this had an extremely high probability of reaching the market. The name is Syndrium, um, and it contains a combination of arterolane maleate and piperoquine phosphate. Arterolane was the new drug that was the Ranbaxy's research product. So the Synriam program goal was to develop an oral fixed dose combination antimalarial that would show activity against falciparum parasites and have a short treatment duration with a convenient dosing and would be inexpensive. So Syndrium eventually won the approval of the regulators in India and was introduced in the market. So our effort was acknowledged, and I, along with a few others who were involved in the development of Syndrium, were felicitated by APJ Abdul Kalam, the former president of India. It was a moment of pride for the organization and personally for me too. Um, I was actively involved in the project management function of clinical development program of this antimalarial drug. Before I move to the next field which I ventured into, that is medical writing, let me tell you a bit about project management in clinical development. So, what is project management? So it is basically application of processes, method, knowledge, skill, and experience to achieve the project objective. This is what I'm saying is irrespective of uh, any project. It's irrespective of it's not just for drug development, but these are the general things that have that a project manager needs to do. It involves managing scope, schedule, timelines, budget, and resources for the project, planning, monitoring, and stakeholder management, and management of the regulatory and compliance strategy. So, and what does it take to be a good project manager in the drug development process? So, you need to have a good working knowledge of the drug development process, a good communication skill because you have to communicate with a lot of stakeholders within the organization, and the ability to build strong relationship with various stakeholders to understand interdependencies within the project, resource conflicts, timeline deviations, etc., and take action accordingly. So this is one area which is with the experience comes with time. When you spend good numbers of years in the industry and in the research and development of a drug, you will be able to. This is one area that is extremely interesting as well. Going back to the same slide where I'm going to again go back to my career path. Subsequently, I forayed into medical writing in a company that provides medical writing, pharmacovigilance, and various other services to global pharma companies. At present, I am in one such company called Apso Life Sciences, where I am in medical writing delivery center. along with responsibility for the P&L as the vice president. So now let me tell you a bit about medical writing. What is medical writing? It is basically preparing scientific documents of different types, which include documents related to clinical research, all the clinical trial related documents like the protocols, the study reports, the safety narratives, etc. So, this is known as clinical writing. The second category of documents are the regulatory writing documents, which are required for regulatory filings. These are the clinical and the non-clinical data, preparing the reports of all the data that has been generated during the drug development process, uh, and all these will go into the regulatory filings. So we prepared the modules, the clinical and the non-clinical modules that go into the regulatory dossiers. The third category is scientific writing, where disease or drug related educational materials are prepared, manuscripts for journals, content for healthcare websites, articles for health related magazines, etc., are included in this. So, broadly, there are three categories of medical writing documents. And what does it take to be a good medical writer? First of all, the domain knowledge, uh, which includes medical and therapeutic area knowledge, drug development process, an understanding of the drug development process, the pharmacology, and the drug safety. You need to have basic understanding of statistics, and also the technical guidelines related to drug development and registration. For example, the ICH guidelines, or the consort guidelines, which are required for writing manuscripts, guidelines, and all the other than that, what is important in medical writing is that you should have a good hold on language and grammar. Literature search and referencing is also an important part of medical writing. Interpretation and presentation of the data. There is a lot of data that is generated during the development of a drug, but how to interpret it and present it in a way that is easily understandable, lucid, and well presented to the regulatory agencies is important. Also, we have to be aware of the ethical and legal issues like copyright issues, plagiarism, etc. So, having started my career in pharmacy and Upjohn, to now having management responsibilities, I have over time completely transitioned from being a zoologist, which also was my passion, to the pharmaceutical sciences. Now, somewhere on the way, I tried leveraging my learnings in zoology and my PhD in some or the other way to better understand my job in the pharmaceutical industry. So, I would now talk about the pharma drug development value chain, and where there are specific activity areas that have distinct role for zoologists. I'll move on to the next slide. So here you see that zoologists have opportunities in specific activities in the whole drug development value chain. Drug development is the process of bringing a new drug to the market once a lead compound has been identified through the process of drug discovery or invention, whatever you can call it. It involves invention of a chemical compound, the preclinical studies in animals, applying and seeking permission for getting the status of an investigational new drug from the regulatory authorities, and then assessing it in humans and eventually taking it to the market for the treatment of a disease or diseases. So, modern discovery involves identification and screening of hits, medicinal chemistry and optimization of these hits to increase the affinity, selectivity, etc., and also the oral bioavailability. Once it is identified, once it is identified that a compound fulfills all these requirements, the process of clinical development begins. So some of the steps that may involve computer, there are some steps which may involve computer aided design, and that has been made possible with greater deal of simulation, modeling, and the use of artificial intelligence. So, but despite advances in technology, drug discovery still remains a lengthy and expensive process. Well, that may come, that of course, stands redefined in view of the COVID-19 situation, in which vaccines and other therapeutics are, being developed in an unprecedented and never before seen pace. So, what we have talked about broadly, there are three stages, which are the early stage, which involves target selection, lead discovery, and activities pertaining to medicinal chemistry. Second, the preclinical stage, which involves in vitro studies that includes disease modeling, determining drug selectivity and refinement of candidate, which entails going back to the chemistry stage. Thereafter, we proceed to the animal studies that includes identification and selection of appropriate animal model, which should be as close as possible to the humans, and animal behavioral studies. So this is a crucial stage where a candidate's safety or toxicity in the animals is determined in addition to determining if the candidate would work in the target disease, which is generally induced in animal models. So this is where a zoologist can contribute. Once a candidate goes through the animal studies, approvals are sought for it to be tested in humans, beginning with safety or toxicity, determining the therapeutic window, the kinetics of the drug, the dose determination, etc. So, findings of the animal studies also become relevant here. These are followed with determining a candidate's efficacy in humans. So, my observation is that zoologists can progress further to an extent leveraging their basic training while picking new skills and knowledge they gain on the way. Moving to the next slide, I'll continue with the this slide is a sort of an extension of the previous one, but it brings to the fore the points that what each step involves. For instance, we see in the in vitro studies, cellular disease model is something like disease in a dish. It is fascinating. It is about creation of human disease in a dish, which are giving scientists a better way to study disease biology and test new drugs. This certainly is an area to look at for the zoologists, which is integral to translational research. Drug affinity and selectivity and determination of mechanism of action, the findings of the animal tissues can be leveraged or extrapolated. So therefore, I also re-emphasize that zoologists can find a role for themselves here, but they need to have inquisition, attitude, and bend of mind to explore, because there are points where the knowledge and information meet and overlap. So here I would be talking about selection or development of an animal model, and give you a brief idea of some of the parameters that are considered for selection of animal models for assessing drug candidates. There are questions in the process that zoologists can answer well. So, the example here is illustrative. The concept of one size fits all doesn't work here because diseases are different, pathogenesis is different, and so forth. So, the questions that come up are what are the research objectives? What are the intrinsic factors associated with the biological phenomena under investigation, such as progression of the disease pathology? Basically, to develop the intrinsic points of reference to the human illness. There are inherent factors in interactions between the diseased host and the etiological agent. And the extrinsic factors associated with the condition that is investigated, biological information about the model, etc. So, the challenge of finding appropriate model for research, particularly translational research, is acute in neuroscience because neurobiological and behavioral phenotypes are complex, and many traits important in humans are absent or radically different or difficult to assess in other species. So, trained zoologists understand this aspect well. Good understanding of the evolutionary perspectives also help to address these challenges. So, considering model choice for an evolutionary angle helps to understand the question what species might be a good model for studying. Again, that is your forte. Science doesn't work in silos. Various research fields merge into one another. The idea here is to bring to the fore that streams of science, no matter how diverse they seem, they merge into one another. Just that we have to try and look beyond the obvious, try and find out what is not apparent. Similarly, zoology has contributed hugely to result significant discoveries. Data related to animal properties and species characteristics are important for pharmacological research and findings. So, it would have been extremely difficult to make advances, particularly in neurology and psychotropic drugs, without animal studies involving animal behavior and memory studies that few understand better than zoologists. There is a confluence of different streams of science. A huge example is that of G protein coupled receptors, which is among the most important therapeutic agent in modern pharmacology. The growth of knowledge of transduction, identification of new receptor sites, drugs, etc., they happened hugely with this discovery, at the root of which were zoological discoveries as well. So, how can zoology help in public healthcare research, and how can it be leveraged by the pharmaceutical industry? So, in public health, the knowledge of zoological research could be leverage points for the pharma industry. For example, diseases caused by parasites is a major cause for concern, as a result of which a lot of morbidity and mortality happen. So, there are several parasitic diseases, those that have been in existence for long, such as malaria, and those that seem to have emerged recently, such as Zika. So, understanding of the pathogens, the pathogenesis, the vector, the transmission could be important to develop ways to break the transmission cycle of, develop effective control programs and contribute to developing therapeutics and vaccines. Again, this is, the forte of zoologists. So, science of human health improved as a result of animal experimentation. We have seen this again and again, and there are many examples of how science of human health has progressed based on animal experimentation. So, one such early example is that of myasthenia gravis, which is an autoimmune disease in which a person's own immune system attacks the acetylcholine receptors and causes paralysis. So there is still no cure, even after its discovery a century ago, I think. So the arrow poison Kurar, which is derived from plants or snake toxins, etc., immobilize the prey at which it was shot at. So, researchers in frogs showed that it blocked the communication between the nerves and the muscles. It was later demonstrated that the nerves communicate with the muscles by releasing acetylcholine, and researchers showed that Curie blocked the action of acetylcholine. So this discovery, which was a landmark in many ways for expansion of pharmacology, was driven a great deal by zoological research. Now, therefore, I'm almost at the end of my presentation, and we need to bear in mind that various streams of science merge with one another, and the knowledge we gain here, the skills, the expertise we develop, could have application in pharmaceutical industries and in many other areas. So, individually, we need to keep an open mind, be inquisitive, try to identify problems, challenges, and think in terms of how we can make an approach towards a solution. When we try and address these that pertain to humans, we transition to the world of pharmaceuticals. Therefore, the saying of the great German writer, philosopher, and statesman Goethe that knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. So this becomes very relevant. So here I come to the end of my presentation, and I would be open to any kind of questions that the audience may have.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya, for such a nice talk. Yes, we'll be taking some questions. Some people have already posted them on the YouTube chat box. I would request everyone who has been watching, if you have more questions, please post them on the YouTube chat box, and we will take those with the speaker. So we have a question from Shanchari Gorai. Shanchari is asking, are the same phases applicable for a vaccine trial? I think she's referring to the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials.
Yes, Shanchari, for vaccines also, the same phases of clinical trial are applicable. Uh, However, we start with the vaccine trials are usually conducted in not in patients but in healthy volunteers. But it undergoes all three phases. It depends upon the kind of endpoints what we are trying to see at each phase. The first phase where we see the basically the safety of the drug, of the vaccine, and then moving slowly onto the efficacy from a smaller group of subjects to a bigger population.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Um, there is a Prabhat Kumar Swai. Prabhat is asking, what are the opportunities in the pharma drug development value chain in current scenario?
In the current scenario, whatever I have presented right now, all those are applicable in the current scenario. So a pharma company would typically have a pharmacology department and a toxicology department in the preclinical stages. So where in the pharmacology testing of the drug is done in animal models, and the toxicology department usually performs the toxicology studies in animals, and these are the two departments where a zoologist can very well fit into, in my opinion.
Thank you, ma'am. I think I'll also ask a question of my own. So this question is more focused on the medical writing part of your journey. So I was just wondering, maybe as a graduate student, when we are pursuing PhD, we might not be that acquainted with medical writing, but nonetheless, we kind of do the scientific writing as part of our journey as a PhD student. We write, for example, grants or application for funding opportunities or even manuscripts. So, do you think, or did you realize over the course of your journey that these were something that helped you later in as a medical writing professional?
Absolutely, absolutely. So even writing my thesis, then writing the manuscripts for publications, this have really, all these have really helped me in medical writing, and also the literature search. At that time, we were not so conversant with literature search. So now the literature search through various search engines like PubMed, Google Search, Google Scholar, and Embase. These are some of the search engines which have a plethora of scientific information that helps you to make your manuscripts and all other deliverables more robust. So uh, writing my PhD and my manuscripts have yes, I can relate to that very well.
Very good to know, ma'am.
And this is
Um,
one field where we take, freshers from life sciences, those who have completed their uh, uh, post graduation or, PhDs, are the ones who are, typically employed in medical writing in, such service providing companies.
That's actually very relevant because our next question, so Shanchari has a follow-up question. How can a Masters of Zoology student get a job in pharmacy company without PhD?
Without PhD, well, it is a little, I would say, a little difficult, except, the field that we just talked about, that is medical writing. Um, Medical writing is an area where, particularly we not only deal with writing of clinical documents, but also non-clinical ones as well. So having a zoologist in the team would be really helpful for the organization. So without a PhD, I would not be sure how where else we can fit someone in the pharma company. Maybe I would also here request Ena to chime in, whether from her experience in the industry she sees any opportunity of zoology students in the pharmacology area of pharmacology in clinical development.
Um, yes, we'll wait for Professor uh, Enara Banerjee to join. But in the meantime, I think we'll take one more question from Prabhat. He's asking, is there any specific roadmap currently for drug designing in an eco-friendly manner so that common man can be benefited?
Mm, it's a it's a difficult question for me as well, because um drug designing is not an area that I have dealt with actually. So I can get back to him. I can talk to my friends and get back to him about this. Yeah.
All right. Um, Ma'am, I actually had another question. So I was just wondering, I know you said that you kind of chanced upon with this whole industry in industrious career, but I was just wondering, like looking back, if a current graduate student is thinking about joining industry, or let's say not staying in academia, is there anything specific or anything in general that you'd suggest those people to pursue, or maybe do a certification course, something that would help them become more adept to the industrial career?
Shoradip, you are breaking, and I have not been able to understand the question. It will be good if you can put it in the chat
Yes,
box, maybe.
absolutely. Am I audible now? Can you hear me clearly? It's the
Yeah, I can, but you're breaking at times. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry, people. I think we just lost connection with Dr. Bhattacharya. We will give it a few minutes to see if she is able to reconnect. Um, in the meantime, if you guys have any more questions, you can always post them on the YouTube chat box and we can get them answered. If not now, then um, in email over communications. And I just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in every weekend for our webinars on YouTube. It's great having you guys. And um, so, wait, I think we might have Dr. Bhattacharya back. Yes, we're gonna. All right, Dr.
Yes,
Bhattacharya is,
yeah.
yes, great.
Sorry.
It's great to have you back. Yeah. Yes. So I guess my last questions were more like, if there's anything specific that PhD students or postgraduate students can do, like beyond their curriculum, to make themselves more adept for the industrial career.
Okay. So, there are courses in clinical trials. These are 1 or 1.5 year courses that are conducted by a lot of universities nowadays, and they give a good uh, uh, understanding of the regulations that are involved in clinical trials, what clinical trials are, and how different aspects of clinical research. So that is a course that I would recommend people who are interested to come to the pharma industry. And also there are courses on medical writing. So medical writing courses are short courses, and there are certification courses also which are available for medical writers through American Association of Medical Writing or European Association of Medical Writing. Those can also be taken up, and those absolutely are very valuable in entering the industry. These are the two
Thank you.
areas I can think of.
Thank you, ma'am. We also have a question from Rakesh Botobel. Rakesh is asking, I'm wondering as to how much of the training in bioethics happened during the doctoral stages.
I'm not sure what is meant by doctoral stages here. Is he talking about the PhD?
Yes, I think he's talking about the. I mean, I can speak of my experience in
Yeah,
our university.
please.
Yes, in yes, thanks. So I'm currently a PhD student in Vanderbilt University, Tennessee. So in our university, as part of our curriculum, we undergo a mandatory um, bioethics course and something like research conducts and like ethics courses. So that's a mandatory part of completing the PhD. I'm not completely sure what the scenario is in India and if there's any mandatory courses in ethics and guidance on research, how to conduct research ethically. Um, but that's my opinion.
But during the drug development, there are a lot of these guidelines which are, um, for example, as I talked about good clinical practices. These are ethical, guidelines for conducting the trials ethically and following the protocol, and ensuring that the patient, welfare is being protected. So there are a lot of such ethical guidelines to be followed, whether it be clinical research or medical writing or regulatory affairs. So yeah, can't answer your question regarding the doctoral part. In the industry, uh, there is a
Yes.
lot of these ethical considerations that have to be kept in mind.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have a question from Isha Anero. Do publications from PhD tenure matter to get into industry? And Isha has a following follow-up comment saying, I meant with respect to desired versus essential criteria.
Yes, of course. The publications that you have done during your PhD tenures as a fresher, if you're applying somewhere, then your publications do matter a lot. You know, it is not essential, but it certainly gives you an edge over the others. Also
All right.
depends upon the kind of publication, the journal where it has been published. So these are some of the considerations, but then uh, publications, yes. My answer is yes, it does matter.
Thank you, ma'am. It has been a very enlightening talk about other career options because, as a graduate student and people in academia, often when we think about career options, we often tend to forget about industrial careers. We often tend to focus on academia, but it has been a very, 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 very informative talk for us as PhD students. Before closing out, I would like to invite Professor NRA Banerjee to join us for a vote of thanks.
That was an excellent talk. I was listening to it mesmerized. And there was one question from Professor Rakesh Botobal. He's a historian, let me mention, from JNU. And to answer his question, for course studies that PhD students are mandated to participate in, they have to take certain credit hours and go through certain topics. So bioethics is a part of the course studies for doctoral, which is a prerequisite for doctoral studies. And to answer Shonchari, I think what was the question, that whether PhD is a mandate, or without a PhD, if it is possible to get into the pharma or the biotech industry. And I think yes, because one does need a lot of, how can a master's of zoology student get a job in pharmacy company without PhD? Yeah, even without PhD, people are hired in slightly junior position. But yes, like Dr. Bhattacharya just now elaborated, the essential skills that are there in an MSc student. However, I must make a disclaimer here that with the large number of students and rather poor infrastructure in especially state universities, it may not always be possible to give the kind of training that a pharma industry might require of, say, a zoology student. So it is really up to the university, up to the student to add value and get the skills, instead of looking from the back at the whatever the practical demonstrations are happening, and copying from the seniors in your lab notebooks. Try and learn real skills. As Dr. Bhattacharya just mentioned, that what you know is very, very important. And your publications, while your publications gives you that extra, that okay, she has published or he has published, and has some amount of expertise in this area, but ultimately how you perform is very, very important. So both the theoretical and the practical aspects of the subject are important for you to know, because when in the interview board or later on in the probationary period, you really have to perform. So not just the theoretical knowledge and a good mark sheet, but also real working knowledge of the subject is very important, right, Dr. Bhattacharya?
Absolutely. And you have to be inquisitive.
Hmm.
You have to, gain knowledge and be open minded and be open minded to learn new things. As I didn't know where I was heading to. I just took it up as a challenge because while doing my PhD, the only thing I knew is that I have to get into some college to teach. That's all what I was looking forward to. I never thought that I would get into the industry had I not got that phone call from my friend, and I just jumped onto it. I was inquisitive. I was if I tell you my story, it's hilarious. I took a train overnight with no reservation. I jumped onto the train and landed up in Delhi, not knowing where to go. My friend picked me up, at 2:30 early in the morning, because it was not even it was a special train. It didn't even have a name. It was some puja special or something like that. And I didn't know what my role was, for what position I'm going for the interview. I just picked up my PhD thesis and went there. And all I could answer, I didn't know what a clinical trial was. But then I was open to everything. I was open to learn something new.
And
So
then how one thing led to another, and you have to be, open to these things, to picking up new skills. And sometimes it happens that your previous career may not work out for various reasons. You may have to move, there may be differences, what should I say, changes that may not be very hospitable. And then you have to move, even if you didn't want to. And then you have to have these ready skills or the openness to acquire newer skills and reinvent yourself, right?
absolutely. So I was extremely happy with my clinical research career. And when I got an offer from Ranbaxy, I was very, very resistant to take it up. I didn't know what, project management is, and I thought I wouldn't fit in there at all. But then somehow I got convinced by some of my friends. And when I joined, it was such an enriching journey. Being a project manager for the entire development process, you get to understand, you get to interact with so many different departments, see how a drug is actually being developed, have these cross functional meetings with different stakeholders, trying to moderate them and managing the entire show was absolutely very rewarding. So I jumped into different fields, and that helped me a lot, I think. What I am today, I'm thankful that I took up those challenges.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhattacharya. It was so nice to listen to you, and it's odd for me to talk address you as Dr. Bhattacharya, because you are such a dear friend, and we have been friends since undergraduate college. But thank you
Yeah,
so much. It was an excellent talk, and like you said, perhaps COVID has taught us, as never before, the need for interdisciplinarity. Here you have cell biologists and immunologists and the medical team, working on vaccines, working on antivirals, working on drugs. And then you also have the say the cultural aspect of things. So when community medicine could not have developed unless what is needed to be done is translated into easily comprehensible forms by totally non-technical persons. The cultural aspects of, say, community have to be taken into account when you want to apply the learnings of science into society. Communication skills are so important. If a scientist comes and talks to the common person, they would not even be welcome to, say all those things. So the very delicate, say, historical nuances of things, the cultural aspects, the linguistic aspects of things, and together with it, the legal aspects, the moral aspects. There are so many ramifications that needs to be converged in a manner as to be really effective. So, from today's talk and what the Saturday special lectures of PPB aim to bring to you is this sheer convergence of different disciplines that today's speaker, Dr. Bhattacharya, so nicely elaborated, that you need to know the medicinal chemistry, need to know structural biology, computational chemistry, pharmacy, zoology, the basic aspect of what the biodiversity is all about, the animal forms, the disease models that we use, and then you have the clinical doctors, and then you have the team, the human resources management team, and there are so many different aspects of the drug discovery process. So, like never before, students of all subjects probably need to be sensitized how one subject merges into another. And I think a previous speaker on our platform with the Takeda Pharmaceuticals had said very similar things that our today's speaker also spoke about. Is during our academic studenthood, sometimes we have these suggestions, and before the examination we will only read those suggestions and do well in the examinations. But you see, in real world there are nothing called suggestions, and you should be very open to learning the entire syllabus and more, and probably not even be limited within your own subject domain. So if we are to really open up and the spirit of enterprise to really take our nation, and not just our nation, probably the whole of human community, especially in the face of these unprecedented natural disasters such as COVID, we really need to study our subjects and make forays into other domains also, especially in the face of recession. And I had a question for our speaker, our last question for the speaker, is that as a student of zoology, do you feel that had you been exposed to certain things within the curriculum, you would have been better prepared to make a foray into the industry? Similar question has also been asked by Shorodip, but as a teacher of zoology in our alma mater, I would like to ask: is there something that you feel that we could perhaps train our students in?
Yes, I think what that's a very good question, and what I feel is that yes, we should teach our students a bit about the drug development process, particularly because that absolutely pertains to zoologists, budding zoologists, particularly the pharmacology and the toxicology parts, where their role comes in if they want to enter the pharma industries. So the drug development process in a nutshell, with emphasis on how on the animal studies, what kind of animal studies are conducted during the drug development process, would be really helpful, I think. I didn't feel that ever that I should have learned this during my course when I entered the pharma industry, because every time it kept changing and I learned a lot on the job. But then I am not sure, whether everyone will get that opportunity or not.
Mm.
So, in this stage, where if you have the opportunity of making of including certain things in the curriculum, this would be a great area to include, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
At least till
Yeah,
the
I hear
preclinical
you.
stage, till the preclinical stage, and a little bit on the clinical development as well, because As you know, the human doses are related to the are extrapolated from the animal studies. So it really makes a lot of sense for them to understand, how the drug development process takes place, and how animal studies, how important they are during the entire course of development.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to answer all these questions. And thank you for sharing your journey. I hope our quite a few people are listening in to you on YouTube, and to all the future audiences who will doubtless be tuning into your talk. This has been an inspiring 1 hour that we spent with you, and I hope many students, many more students of biosciences would be inspired to follow a similar path. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
it is
Thank
good
you for
night
giving
from
me
our
this.
end. And I don't know if Shauradip has anything else to announce. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya, for joining with us, and thank you, Dr. Ray Banerjee, for such a nice introduction and also the vote of thanks. I would also like to thank the audience for your continued participation. Thank you guys for joining us on a weekend evening and also day. I know our audience is all over the world. So we also have a lecture tomorrow. We will be hearing about stem cells from Dr. Dasharathi from InStem NCBS Bangalore. I hope all of you join for tomorrow's talk as well. And the feedback link is also posted on the YouTube chat box. So please provide some good feedback so that we can always keep improving in how we do these things. And thank you. Good night, good evening, good morning. We'll see you next time.